So we're naming a Square Hammer our metal song of the decade. Oh yes. So I want to talk a lot about that song. The riff for that song, I think, is going to always be one of the most identifiable parts of Ghost, and one of the most identifiable parts of sort of this era of metal music. So it's a simple riff, but it's a powerful one. Can you tell me about writing that riff and placing it at the beginning of this song?
The riff was the thing that sort of originated the song, that bit. If you're talking about...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I nicked it from one of my previous songs. But it was like a picking thing. But it was just the first phrase. But it was played in a... But it was just like one of those little melodies that I'm like, that is way too good. And I just, as a lot of, I think that a lot of musicians can relate to a lot of riffage start basically sitting like that. You just sit and play it, and something that feels good.
Yeah.
You just sort of find yourself returning to that. It just turned into a riff, and the writing of the song went very quick after that.
You were talking about the importance of the progression for Ghost to sort of having that more arena rock feel to it. I imagine Square Hammer has to be a really important part of that growth for you.
Square Hammer was definitely me thinking that we need a big opener.
An opener, okay.
Yeah, we need a big opening song. We don't have that. We had these very... speaking of an influence, I like a band called Uriah Heep a lot.
Sure.
And the whole... that we've had on 3 records, opening tracks, that's completely Uriah Heep. If there's anything I've listened to way more than Blue Oyster Cult, it's Uriah Heep. And just listen to Return to Fantasy or Look at Yourself, You're Healed, that's Ghost, like straight. So we sort of ended up sort of adopting that triplet-y thing. But I also felt that it doesn't have the same effect as if we would start with a 2 Minutes to Midnight or like a straight just rocker. So we need an opening track. We need a new one. And this was halfway through Meliora cycle, and I just decided that, I have this song, and that is gonna be our new opener. That's gonna be our new opening track for the extension of the tour that became the Popestar tour. But in the bookends, it's more like that's the Meliora era.
Yeah.
Meliora tour cycle. You just do the accompanying sort of surprise EP that comes out towards the later part of the tour, just to sort of prolong the agony for the haters.
Yeah.
But of course, it had a major effect, because it served as a really good opener, and now it serves as a really good closer.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, that it ends up as a closer when you try to write a perfect opener. So let's talk about the music video for that song. You're wearing a Nosferatu pin right now. I've got a Nosferatu hoodie. There's a big Nosferatu influence in that video, as well as Metropolis, it looks like. So what about that sort of period of horror wanted to make you commit Square Hammer to that kind of imagery?
I'm going to be super boring and say that is just a very simple way to sort of just steep something into a form, that also correlated with the sort of early 1900s aesthetic of the album.
Yeah.
because it, the record was sort of meant to take place in some sort of early state of electronics and gadgets. The theremin and so it just felt like an easy way to do it. And Sev was, very into the idea. Sev Deans, who made the video, and that was. I mean, that was turned into quite not only a good video, but we planned a lot of funny little bits in there. That was sort of, this might happen in the future. Thing. I think even more than people have noticed so far.
When it comes to the achievements of Ghost, if you ever put them in like most important, anything like that, where would you put Square Hammer in terms of achievements?
Very high, with high regard. It was our first #1 as well here in America.
Yeah, for 2 weeks on rock radio, #1.
Yes, which was a huge thing at that point. Meliora was the first record where we had any radio in America. We didn't have that previously. But Square Hammer was definitely the one that sort of put us in a position where we were forced to be reckoned with in terms of radio. And the reason why I'm going on about radio is that you can definitely have a career in America without the radio, but it definitely helps. Not so much in Europe, it doesn't matter the same way, but if you're a rock band, at least if you're a pop band, of course, but in rock it doesn't have the same impact. It differs a little bit between country to country, but here it's definitely the night and day difference. And as soon as Meliora got airplay with Cerise, Pinnacle.
That He Is as well?
He Is was never a radio song in America for some reason. I think that they were worried that, I think that it sort of, there's an initial little suck-off contest that you need to do in order to sort of get into the radio in the first place. And I still think that in there, not in total, not everyone, but I think that there are some sort of people that are sort of like, this might be a little bit too much, and they just like, kill it. So I think that was the basis of that song, never really... However, ironically, it did really well in Europe. So radio does matter. But yeah, so it did really well in Europe. It did really well in Sweden, actually, and France, and some other place. However, Square Hammer came. It was an additional surprise, sort of out of nowhere track, and went to #1. And that obviously opened up a lot of, because when you've reached #1, you're that sort of, that process is a little easier. Then they're like, yeah, cool. Yeah. So that might be worth also mentioning that